Welcome to the latest edition of the Real Wealth Solutions podcast. I'm Darren Light, one of your co-hosts, along with my partner, Greg Scully, your other co-host. Today we have Lee Fjord out of St. Louis. We will just kick it off right off the bat. And Lee, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. If you would, just kind of give us an intro, a little bio about yourself, your journey to this point in real estate, how you got here, what you're into. We'll just start things off from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Darren and Greg. I really appreciate you having me on and giving me the ability to hopefully bring some value to your audience. So first of all, we'll focus just on real estate because that's what we're here to talk about. I started in real estate in 2012. Got my real estate agent license down in Florida. Decided I was going to sell houses. I went and sat open houses for about 6 months, twiddling my thumbs, waiting for somebody to walk in and say, "I'll take it," which, needless to say, never happened. So without a paycheck for 6 months, my broker came to me and she said, "Hey, Lee, the guy who's running our property management division of the brokerage is leaving. Would you like to take over these 20 houses?" And I said, "Ooh, payday. Sure. Sounds good. I'll take over those, 20 houses under management." So over the course of 4 years, I built that property management division of the brokerage up to 220 houses. So I 11X that thing in 4 years, learned a lot of lessons, put in place property management software, systems, checklists, so on and so forth. When I took it over, they were running the whole thing off of spreadsheets, which is not a way to run a business. So that went fantastically well. Simultaneously, I was selling about $5 million a year in real estate, mostly to and for my property management clients, so mostly investment real estate. And in 2017, decided I would like to be closer to family and be in a market where I felt like I could make a difference or a splash in investing. So I moved to beautiful St. Louis, Missouri. So moved to St. Louis, 17, bought a sight unseen duplex, got my real estate agent license, did property management for a while, realized I'm not a residential real estate agent for a while, and did commercial leasing for a while, bought some property, ended up buying a duplex, four single family houses and a 38 unit with a partner. That is fantastic. Big believer in the power of partnerships. Then now I am a commercial real estate broker with one of the largest commercial real estate brokerages that's publicly traded, and loving life, living in St. Louis.
And continuing to buy multifamily all at the same time. So you're actively investing, looking, underwriting, touring, all of the above.
Every day, I have assembled a great team of partners. Big believer in the power of partnerships, as I'm sure you guys are as well. And it's really helping to escalate my ability to invest and buy multifamily.
Okay, right on. What happened before 2012? What were you into then? That wasn't your first job in 2012, right?
Oh no, I graduated college 2007. I started out as a commercial aviation insurance broker. So I sold insurance to people that own private aircraft, and for charter companies, small airlines, helicopter tour companies. I was living down in Destin, Florida. And then, let's see here, one of my clients hired me away to be a radar salesman. So I sold radars for a good while. The team I was a part of ended up winning a $500 million contract. And then decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I bought a business, a Verizon wireless cell phone store, which it taught me a great amount of lessons being an entrepreneur and buying a business that then subsequently the contract with Verizon was not renewed 18 months after buying that business, then closed up shop after 18 months of ownership. It taught me a huge lesson. I took out a loan to buy it, leveraged my personal income and myself, and took out a loan, a personal loan, personally guaranteed loan to buy that business. did not have that loan paid off when the Verizon Wireless contract was not renewed and the store closed. So learned a lot about choosing not to buy blue sky. Like buying blue sky is the worst thing you can do. The promise of future income that is not backed by an actual physical asset is just blue sky. And it hurt my ability to progress financially for several years afterwards as I continued to just pay that loan every single month, just as if the business was still in place. It was a big thorn in my side for several years until I was able to pay that loan back. But I did, I held up my end of the deal. I told the bank I would pay my bills every month or my note every month, and I did, even though there was no income to offset or pay for that loan. And then shortly thereafter moved back to Destin, Florida, and started in real estate. So yeah, taught me a lot that when investing, it's best for me to buy a business that's backed by assets, specifically multifamily real estate. And that's what you're buying, in my view, when you're buying an apartment building or buying a business.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's what was going through my head when you talked about it being Verizon, is also some of your potential success is correlated to Verizon having continued success. So you're still being an entrepreneur for sure. You're still doing what most people will never do, is go buy their own business. But because it's still connected to a larger umbrella business, you kind of go as the way of, in this case, Verizon goes. And hopefully Verizon doesn't listen to this and feel like we're bashing them, but I think they're doing fine, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're doing great. They just changed their business plan and decided smaller unit operators as independent retail stores were not part of their business plan anymore. And it's not their fault. It was my fault for buying a business that I didn't know that there was a likelihood that they would cancel that contract.
Right. Yeah. And of course, who has the resources to fight that even if you felt like it, right? Darren, were you going to say something?
Luckily, my landlord let me out of the lease.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah,
I mean, we had a small business too, and it didn't work out well. And same thing. We had a loan, and we eventually got it paid off. But we're very fortunate that our landlord was reasonable, and he's like, "Hey, you guys gave good run at it. You were good tenants. Otherwise, I understand this didn't work out, and he let us out. So thankful for that."
Yeah, I was just going to say, we like to talk about mindset, Lee, on the podcast at some point. And you went through that experience, fast forward to 2012, first 6 months of real estate, no income. What was going through your mind mentally at that point? And did that opportunity for management just come out of nowhere? Was it just kind of a mutual thing that happened? I mean, where were you at that point?
Not earning an income can be really stressful. And luckily I had great support from my family and friends during that timeline. And, you just suck it up, make it happen. It's being a 100% commission salesperson is not for everyone. It's very stressful. I still am till this day, a 100% commission salesperson. You're a business owner still. The only difference is I didn't have to buy the business. I created it myself. So it was difficult, but I think, my broker believed in me and that I could make a big difference with that property management division of the brokerage. It did kind of come out of nowhere. The opportunity was provided to me, and I was really fortunate to be able to take that over. And then, got busy, put nose to the grindstone, and built that thing from 20 to 220 in a couple years. And when I find something that I'm dedicated to and focused on, I generally am pretty successful about making it successful.
Yeah, obviously that broker saw something in you, or they would not have given you that opportunity, which I think is awesome. Hey, on paper you're not really producing results, but apparently you're an awesome human being, and then saw something. So, all right, that's great.
Yeah, and at least in the management business, you're less transactional. You do have the residual income because you got that portfolio kicking out whatever your percentage you're getting. So that takes a little bit of the stress level off the transactional side of being a broker. You know, you can get your rent or mortgage. You know, hey, I know that's covered at least by this residual income coming in. Um, Would you, I imagine looking back now that management experience is paying huge dividends for you in your approach to multifamily. What's your view on self-management or the level of management that new or aspiring multifamily investors should get into? I hear some people say, hey, if you could figure out a way to manage for 6 months to a year, it's only 6 months or a year. It's not going to kill you, and you're going to learn a ton from it. Uh, what do you think?
Absolutely. The whole reason why I became inspired by real estate investing was because of working in property management. I learned so many amazing lessons while running that division of the brokerage, and I learned processes, procedures, how to market properties properly, how to bid for small projects and big projects, how to vet and hire subcontractors, how to you name it, writing leases, evaluating contracts, every single aspect of the back of the house that is hugely valuable for an asset manager to have in their tool belt if possible, because if you've never done it personally, how are you going to know what you expect others to do? Simply by the only way I can think of is if you have someone else that is kind of guiding you, or you educate yourself independently, which I'm so lucky to have or be involved in a couple great organizations, including the Wheelbarrow Profits Academy, that helps me be able to further my education over and above what I learned in multifamily or in the property management business towards multifamily. So long story short, if someone can start off, or when they're starting off their investing journey, managing the property themselves and learning the lessons, skinning their knees and building up that, understanding of what goes on behind the scenes, it is hugely valuable. It's not as easy as some people think, owning and managing your own properties, but it's worth it. And it is very time consuming. And a lot of people don't have, the time and ability to focus their weekends and evenings and drop everything and go take care of something in the middle of the day on a Tuesday during your lunch hour. So it makes it hard for someone, I would imagine, who's just starting out, but it's worth it.
On the flip side of that, do you think it's possible for someone who hires third-party management right out of the gate, and as they go along, they can learn from them or figure out, they do it this way, but I think maybe it would work better this other way that I've heard someone doing it. Do you think it's possible to start out with third party and then end up managing yourself, either out of necessity or just because that's something else you want to do?
Oh, sure. People do it all the time. But it would take, in my view, a very focused learning and education based upon what you see them doing, and then being always willing to adjust and hire someone else, because you can be totally reliant on a single bottleneck in your business. And as soon as that bottleneck closes, which I would imagine property management would be if someone were non-local or not able to manage their own property, possibly, if the management falls apart or is not as good as it could be, then your property is going to suffer and the value of your property is going to suffer. What I would always behoove someone to try or to do in order to scale is, and this is a team sport, this business, I'm all about teams and leveraging each other's strengths and filling in each other's weaknesses. So if someone's strong in one aspect or another, like let's say they're strong in finance, but they're weak in management or property, understanding a physical asset, then go find a partner who is strong in understanding property management and the actual asset itself.
Yeah, I love what you
Yeah,
said about.
absolutely. Yeah, and
Yeah,
like what we've done just from we don't self-manage. We have third party, but we live in the market that we invest in and are, as we've been told by our third party manager, we're very involved owners. To
Same.
the
I'm
point
exactly the
that,
same.
maybe we're more involved than they would like us to be sometimes, because like I can walk to one of our properties from our condo and kind of see what's going on, and I think that's such a huge advantage. We're over there doing some sweat equity, doing some landscaping, Darren and I and another partner, and tenants just start coming out to you and talking, and there's a huge advantage to either certainly self-managing, because then you're seeing everything from the inside out and can go in on a Tuesday and say, you know what, the process for this is this, and it begins tomorrow morning. And of course we can't do that, so there's some huge trade-offs. But back to what you're saying about partnering, if I'm investing with Lee and he's under contract for a 75 unit value add, managed 220 single families, which in my mind sounds far more difficult than managing a multifamily, in that, you're potentially getting contract quotes for individual properties one at a time for different things, for different reasons, with different owners that might have different expectations of what it should cost, and so on and so forth. Once you have it under the scale of a multifamily, you're not driving to 220 different places. You're having contractors come to your complex. So yeah, having that seat in the bus filled on the management side is huge, either by your experience or being very close to your property.
I've had my property manager actually tell me to stop going over to the property so often. Like, Lee, you are always there. Stop. And, I get detailed I'm very detailed when it comes to punching units when we're doing our heavy value add turns. And he'll be like, Lee, there's no such thing as perfection. And I'm like, but I want it this way. And it's like, Lee, just go buy some more property. That's what you're best at.
So do you think, though, even though you are or were that way, wherever that is, do you think that helps set a level of expectation for that property manager, so that moving forward, you are there less frequently, you realize that you work too much of working in it instead of on it? Because I remember when you got the 38 unit, you had videos and this of like, oh yeah, I'm over here doing this job today, like busting your butt, sweat equity for sure. I remember all that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's a double-edged sword where you get to know the property so well. But what I will say is this property manager and I that my team hired, we hired in order to manage the 38 unit that we bought back in October. We've gotten to know each other so well, and I've been able to set those expectations with them and create an understanding of what I want, when I want it, and how I want it, that now I can easily utilize them to take over other properties that I continue to purchase and add to the portfolio. Like I just purchased a property the other day, a house, and I've only had to go there once, actually twice. I've been to the property and it's already leased and everything's being taken care of. It's undergoing a heavy turn and they know exactly what I want the property to look like and what their job and their role is. And that's from the last almost year of us working together on the other property.
Which has given you time freedom back, which has allowed you to go find another 75 units to get under contract, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right. Yep.
Great.
Is St. Louis or you tell me, the surrounding area, and maybe how far is that your sole focus now? Are you uh, saying this area is going to be my market of expertise, or will you eventually maybe look somewhere else, either in Missouri or or another geographic region?
Absolutely. I think so. I have honed my processes here in St. Louis. I deeply understand the market, and I'll continue to invest in St. Louis. But now that I have not only established myself as an owner operator here in St. Louis and a buyer of property in St. Louis, I've also built a strong team that is capable of investing in other markets. So we are opening our business to several markets, including Kansas City and Louisville, Kentucky, because they're both driving distance for me. And my role within my team is I'm the hatchet man and the hunter. So I'm the guy that goes to the property and hires and fires subcontractors and evaluates the properties and makes sure that, and do the lease audits and so on and so forth, as well as negotiating purchase agreements, everything that involves the actual asset. And then I have team members who cover my blind spots like net worth and liquidity. So with this strong team, we're able to expand to other markets like Kansas City, Louisville. We're also opening to other markets in the Southeast, in Florida. We're actually looking at a few properties down close to where I was living in Florida, down in the Florida Panhandle. So it's once you have your checklists made and your team built, it makes it a lot easier to expand to other markets, especially if you're not going to be fully local. But I would always recommend someone to start in their own backyard if it's possible. I understand that it's hard to do in many cases, like if you're in California or New York or wherever and it doesn't make sense to invest there, then go find someone who can be your partner and be the boots on the ground in that market where you do want to invest. And yes, the answer to your question is, long story short, we are looking at several new markets to move into, and we're really excited about 2021 and adding an additional several hundred units to the portfolio with a strong team.
Sounds like you might be similar to what Greg and I have experienced, is the fact that once you have 2, 3, 4 deals under your belt, you know what you're doing, you know what expectations are, you've kind of experienced, you'll never experience everything that there is in multifamily investing, but a lot that you get very comfortable and confident on, hey, yes, we can go out into another market, especially because we know so-and-so that lives there, even though we can drive, whatever the case may be. I think that's huge. If you're able to start in your backyard, the lessons learned can just translate, to another market. I think it's that simple, but that confidence and that experience goes a long way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we do the same thing. We're here in Johnson City, and it sure is nice when somebody calls and says, hey, there's this whatever 42 unit off of Watauga, right by the the Dollar General there, and you're like, oh yeah, I know where it is. And you can immediately look at a rent roll and see like where the opportunity is. So by sticking to a market and knowing it very well, it gives you the ability to act faster than people might be if they're looking in from California. So you can scoop up things, and you can also eliminate things a lot faster. So, you get a decent portfolio built up, it's stabilized, and then we're kind of doing the same thing, something within 4 hours of either Knoxville or Northeast Tennessee. Yeah, we're willing to go drive. We've toured a bunch of stuff in Chattanooga and put in offers. And so now we're starting to, like you, is like, okay, there's 2 or 3 other markets we're interested in. Let's really work at starting to get that intimate knowledge there. And you get that by touring. I imagine you're getting in your car and you're like, this kind of looks like garbage on paper, but let's put it into the context of the rest of the market. we'll have a little bit more information when the next deal comes along. We can put it into context of what we know about what we learned last week and just grow that way. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, I've actually visited Kansas City 4 times in the last 3.5 months, just to be able to learn the market, meet with potential industry partners, you know, property managers, insurance people, contractors, brokers, so on and so forth, to learn that market in depth. And it can be block by block sometimes. And once you know a market, it's a lot easier to decide like what properties you don't want to even bother looking at and which ones are like, oh, it's there. Absolutely want to get the information on that deal.
Mm-hmm. You mind if I get a little granular about property management?
Yeah.
Identifying your like avatar tenant and then improving the property to what you anticipate that ideal tenant wanting. How do you look at that process? Are you examining, this is kind of how we've done at a property here, you know, it's right in between a university and it's also right in between a medical district. So we're like, okay, ideally, you know, we'd like to pull from this medical district because they're not going to leave after a year because they're students. Mm-hmm. And we'll probably have a higher income, but they might also have a higher expectation of finishes. So, I mean, how do you look at improvements through the lens of your future tenant?
So it sounds like we're focusing on marketing with this subject at the end of the day. It's finding that, or I would want to choose to focus on marketing when you're undergoing a value add and you are improving the condition of each unit with the idea of who that future tenant is going to be. Yes, you then not only focus on them, but how do I attract them? Where do they go to be able to find my property? What kind of price point can they afford? And what amenities do they want, like in-unit washer dryers, or, you know, a certain color scheme of cabinets makes a difference. Some people prefer or would prefer like a white shaker cabinet, and some people could care less. So yeah, when I took over the 38 unit, I had a great idea about who I wanted my tenant to be. Of course, you know, you have to bar your marketing and not be targeting a specific person, because you can't discriminate based on age, sex, you know, so on and so forth.
7 protected classes. Yeah, I mean, you can't.
Yeah, but you know, you can say like exactly like the local employers and be like, who would probably be my employer, or who would my tenant be likely, and kind of create those multiple tenant types. And then where do I target in order to be able to attract them? What I like to do as well is ask my tenants, my ideal tenants who I already have living there, to refer their friends and who they want their neighbors to be to me. And I say, hey, you know, you live here. I hope you stay because you're the type of tenant that I love to have. We have available units, and I would love for you to be able to help me choose who your neighbors are. So whenever you have friends, family, people that are interested in looking for another place to live, please, please, please refer them to us. You can put in place, you know, referral systems and so on and so forth that are hugely beneficial. Most states have a cap that you're allowed to give as a like referral fee. Pretty sure in the state of Missouri it's $50. But if a tenant refers a tenant to my property management company who is approved for the unit, then we do give them a, you know, like a $25 Starbucks gift card or something along those lines. So referrals is that way. And yes, when we do our heavy lift turns, we are thinking about who's going to live here and what they are going to look to have. And also using that to not over improve the property as well. So, you know, not getting too crazy and realizing that a tenant doesn't expect there to be stainless appliances in a unit. and accepting that white is okay and that this tenant is perfectly fine with white appliances. So it's a multi spectrum discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and something that Darren and I talk about, maybe me more so than Darren, is that the bar is often fairly low to outperform competition in a similar industry. So that, I think that I would add that to another advantage of self-managing is that you really like your portfolio and you're going to do everything you can to make it perform at the highest level, whereas a property manager that has thousands of units won't look at your property through the same lens that you're going to look at it. So you can have the opportunity to very easily do some light staging or something like that in a unit for when you're doing tours, whereas a very large property management company may not be able to do that for, something like a 38 unit. I'm guessing you don't have a leasing office. There's nobody on site. So you can do the extra effort to arrive like 20 minutes early and do some light staging if you chose to and make the place smell good and stuff. So there's those trade-offs. The large property manager will make your life probably a lot easier, but they may not be able to maximize the full potential of the property the way Lee can.
Right, especially if
he's taking care of his own property.
Yeah, especially if they own units themselves. That yours seems to not necessarily get neglected, but it does get the attention. I mean, point blank, what you just said, Greg. It's not going to get the attention that you would give it to reach that avatar, if you will, and get at least up as quickly as possible.
So, common question, I think, that comes from investors, and maybe even specifically, like we're all full-time now, is the should I get my real estate license, and will it help me somehow? You have your real estate license. I clearly it's given you some benefit. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Sounds like out of the gate, it didn't do a whole lot for you when you were sitting in those open houses, but then it turned into your management opportunity, and then it turned into you have that base of knowledge that is really paying dividends now. So maybe I answered my own question, but what do you think about the real estate license as a feather in your hat or vehicle?
I think it depends on what each person's individual goals are and what position they're in their life. I think I would say that having your license is a fantastic tool to have in your tool belt if you have minimal experience and if you're looking for another source of income as well. So if you're looking to be an investor and potentially do some deals for others as well, in order to manage, and especially if you intend to manage not only your own property, but other people's property, then you have to be licensed in most states. I know you do in Missouri. So it just depends. If a person currently is not interested in ever doing anything over and above just investing in property, then why bother? But if if a person is looking for other ways to generate additional sources of income, then it can be a great way to add, some bonuses in your checkbook, as well as another thing that's relatable to other brokers. It's a good way to create a rapport with other brokers. Like, oh, you're licensed, I'm licensed too. You can then also charge commissions to your own deals, or take the buy side if you're buying a deal, or, transact on the sell side and take a commission on the sale side of the deal. Most likely it would behoove someone to hire a true professional commercial real estate broker with a large company if they intend to sell, someone who's very experienced in transacting and has a great connection with the local buyers in the market. So it all depends. It helped me a lot, and it gives me the ability to create rapport and understanding, and also practice my my craft, if you will, where I can negotiate with and for other people in my daily life, and utilize the things that I learn in my transactions where I'm helping others invest in order to hone my own skills. So it's up to you. You know, it's not a must by any means. A lot of people do it without it. Certainly not if you're looking to just buy larger apartment buildings. In that case, I would probably suggest people just focus on being a buyer, asset manager, and operator. That's probably a better use of time.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like if somebody on your team, again, it might be that conversation. If you're going to be the fully integrated type company, like you said, if you're going to be managing, you don't need, check your local laws, but if you're managing your own property, I don't believe you need a license in most states. If I'm managing Lee's property, I need to be licensed. So, but yeah, and just like the network that comes with real estate in general, and there's a lot of education that goes along with it if you're active enough. So yeah, it's like probably like I said, not a necessity. Maybe it is what you make out of it if you decide to go through with it. Fortunately, it is a pretty low barrier to entry. So if it's something you want to pursue, yeah, it's not doesn't cost a lot of money to go down that road and figure out that you hate it, or figure out that you're like, oh, okay, if you got a meetup or something and somebody says, hey, well, yeah, man, would you mind managing my fourplex? I just really don't have the time. You're like, okay, well, there's 10% of something you might be getting.
I think one more advantage is just, I think one more advantage of having it is just simply the exposure to opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
The MLS.
Absolutely.
Someone calling you, hey, I'm looking to sell. I mean, there's do's and don'ts once you have your license, but just the opportunity to see what's available out there as far as property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and access to systems that you normally wouldn't have access to, like MLS. They make it a lot easier to do tax record searches when you're a real estate agent. Usually there is a CRM system that is either provided or that you utilize as an agent. So, utilizing those not only as an agent, but as an investor as well, as a multi-headed dragon attacking real estate as a whole, then absolutely, it would be hugely valuable for someone if they want to be vertically integrated, and if they want to be able to more easily be able to pull comparables and get access to data and so on and so forth. But plenty of people do it without, especially people that are focused on larger multifamily properties, because the majority of those do not transact on the MLS. Very rarely do they even end up in the public eye. So in those cases, you end up needing to focus on relationships with brokers that are active in the markets where you're doing business, as well as being part of the community with other owners of similar properties that you want to buy. So, if you let an owner know I'm an active buyer and they're ready to sell, you say, call me. Or if you're an active buyer and you know the broker, or the brokers in that market know you're an active buyer, then you're going to do a lot more transactions than you are just like perusing the MLS.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's a definitely relationship business. So, from your commercial broker side, can you maybe give some pointers to people that are just trying to start doing that relationship building with brokers? When you get those, I'm sure you get those calls, hey, I'm interested in St. Louis. You got anything at a 9 cap? What is your general advice for people for at least being effective out of the gate when neither person on the call really knows anything about the other person, except that I'm a buyer and you're a broker?
Yep. Just to be clear, I focus my brokerage business on a completely different product type than multifamily.
Okay.
So when I'm transacting for my brokerage business, I focus on net lease properties. So single tenant net lease properties, like triple net lease, CVS, Walgreens, Dollar General, AutoZone, O'Reilly Auto Parts stores. So I generally find that it is better to, from a broker standpoint, to not be swimming in the same pool as where you're investing, because you will create a conflict of interest with your buyers, and you'll be viewed as someone who is competing with them. And I would never want to be viewed as someone that would be competing with my buyers, or someone that's shopping for my own deals as opposed to doing listings. So just to make that kind of, put that out there, that is what I focus on. I would be more than happy to help buyers of multifamily as well, but I would not be interested, or I do not list multifamily because I don't want to have a conflict of interest in that. But there are buyers that come and they say, hey, do you know of any deals out there at a 9 cap in this market? And the answer is, tell me about you. You know, you qualify those buyers. You say, do you have a one pager, which would be like your buying criteria and a biography about yourself and your team to prove to the broker that you are capable of closing a property like that. If someone sitting in their dorm room, just got done playing Minecraft and they think that they should be calling real estate brokers and buying 100-unit apartment buildings when they have, no experience, no money, no team, they've not been vetted by a bank, so on and so forth, then they're not at a place where they're ready to have those conversations with brokers, and they should focus on building their team, building their experience, understanding what they would qualify to buy before they even bother wasting that broker's time. You do get a lot of those buyers that come and call and say, hi, my family we're interested in buying multifamily of this caliber. And then it's like, cool, okay, who's got the money? Have you already been pre-approved for financing? And do you have any experience? And if the answer to that is, oh, I'll find the money, I don't have any experience, and no, I have not been vetted by a financing institution yet, then my answer would be, go get some experience, go get pre-approved for financing, and call me when you're ready.
Yeah, I mean, that's great advice. Thank you for bringing up the agency issue with brokers selling things that they're also buying. I've come across that, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm not sure I want to give you my best and final numbers, because you might just use them against me, type thing.
There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah.
And I think it really hurts, because if they're shopping for their own deals and they tend to only bring you the deals they don't want, it's like, well, why would I want to use you as my buyer rep when you've already determined you wouldn't want to buy this?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
interesting.
There's several of those out there, and I don't agree with that. But the sun's getting in my way.
That sun, it's terrible what you're dealing with over. Yeah, great points about what to do if you're new, and even if you're able to get a couple of those questions that you talked about checked off, because everybody starts with 0 units. So we're all in the same boat at some point, but if you've got that one pager, and at the same time, it's rare, you're not like doing your broker relationships, finding the deal, then working on your lender relationships, then trying to find the money. All of this kind of happens at the same time. So you got to be active in all of them. And if you can get some preliminary stuff from a lender that says, hey, yeah, we're comfortable with you at X amount, sort of pre-approved, because they're going to hit you with the same things. They'll be like, well, we need what property? Like we got to qualify the property too. So for a lot of new people, there's this weird spot where you don't have a lot of the information that you're going to need, but it's much better than like you say, just call in with nothing. So
Yep. I still take it back to the reason why I was able to be entertained by the broker who was representing the seller on the 38 unit is because the banker that I was working with on the deal, I had a relationship with him. My team had already been pre-vetted, and the banker put the broker and I together, my team and I together, and the banker vouched for us and said, these guys are ready. They have the experience. They have the net worth. They have the liquidity. They can close a deal in this price point. And that just created such a high level of understanding with the broker that we were ready to close, and he was willing to dedicate some time to us. And if you can't, that's probably the direction I would recommend many younger or newer buyers or investors to do, is create relationships with bankers before you create relationships with brokers, because the bankers know the brokers, and they are the ones that, that can create your, can qualify you to get you in the door with the broker. And I've even in many cases asked the banker to refer me to a broker who I wanted to do business with, and say, put us together. You know that you've seen my personal financial statement and my team's, my experience, and you've done business with Mike. So put me in touch with Mike, and I want Mike to take me seriously. And they do when you show up and you're being introduced or connected by someone who controls the most important part of the deal, which is the money.
Yeah, no, that's a great tip. I don't think I've ever heard that tip before. I mean, and that goes back to like your referral strategy with your own tenants. It's the same thing. It's like if somebody trusts you and believes in what you're doing, and they're willing to tell that to somebody else who doesn't yet know you. So you're leveraging other people's belief in you before you had the opportunity to get that other person to believe in you, which is hugely important, because they're like, hey, I really respect Darren's opinion on, fried chicken, and he thinks that that place down the road, I should give it a go. I'll go ahead and go there, where it may have never even crossed my mind to go there without his recommendation. So yeah, that's a good tip. I like that one. We talked briefly before you came on, and I know you don't label yourself as a minimalist, but you said something. I'm like, oh, are you a minimalist? And you're like, yeah, I live like in the apartment above the carriage house. We'll call it a carriage house. It sounds nicer.
Yeah, fancy. Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I didn't know that. That's kind of cool. So, I mean, you've had some success. You're doing pretty well, but yet you're living well below maybe what your balance sheet would say that you're living at. I'm just curious to talk about that. I kind of feel the same way. Like him and I, we left Alaska, we sold everything, and we joined Renter Nation, and we're like really enjoying the optionality of things. So clearly, you're not chasing the McLarens and the private jets.
Don't get me wrong. I want a plane one day.
Okay.
But, I want it for my business. I want it so that I can own properties in multiple markets and be able to get to my property and be home in time for dinner.
You're already a licensed. You're already a licensed pilot, correct?
Yeah. I'm a pilot.
Okay, I thought I knew
went to school to be a pilot, and I'm not a big needer of things. I'd rather have a life where I can choose where I live or when I want to be able to go somewhere. I have the benefit of being able to go and ski multiple times a year for several days, generally each time I go. And if I were tied to a $10,000 a month mortgage on a house somewhere, then I wouldn't be able to do any of those types of things, travel or make the decisions that I choose to make, and or go places and do things. If I were tied to assets or I wouldn't even call them assets. I would call those things liabilities, like a mortgage on a giant house, or a $1,500 a month car payment, or any of those things. It's just a liability personally, but everybody has the things that they choose to put into their lives, and that's up to them. And I choose to focus more on my freedom, and my ability to, come and travel. Travel is probably my main goal in life. I want to see the world. I want to understand, all of the beautiful cultures and people in this world. And I don't think that it's not very easy to travel, and do those types of things when you're tied to a single location or to a bunch of liabilities.
Yeah, or to a fixed amount of income that is dedicated to a giant house or something. There's nothing wrong with giant houses. I think they're cool and everything too, but it's not for me to be like, why have all this money tied up in a payment here when I could be buying plane tickets with that money and going somewhere else and checking something out, or going skiing. I wrote that down. I'm a skier, so we'll have to figure something out.
Yeah, let's go to Tahoe.
Okay.
I have a season pass every year.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't go anywhere last year, so we'll work that out. There's a few of us. Cool. And then somehow we'll make business pay for it. We'll talk business on the gondola.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It'll be a retreat.
Yeah, there you go. Mastermind. So, no, I appreciate that. It's just interesting to see what people's motivations are, what they're into when it comes to what you do with your earnings.
Oh yeah, some people want a Lambo, and me, I want to be able to go skiing 4 times or 5 times a year.
Yeah, I agree. You got anything else, Darren? We're kicking on to a time where I got to start thinking about an appointment I got in a little bit.
No, I'm good. I think we could. We generally ask if you've got a book that you're reading currently, or a favorite book that helps you, or one that you've gotten something out of recently. I know a lot of people ask that question.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, totally. The book that I'm reading right now is Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. It's a fantastic read about building your network. It is. I'm listening to it on Audible, and I'm promoting it all day right now because it is a fantastic book. It teaches you how to create connections and relationships with the people that you want to be in business with, and not only who you should choose to have in your life, but how to get them into your life. And I love it. It's a great, great book. I'll listen to it over and over again, I'm sure. And then, my favorite book is Think and Grow Rich. So I read that book about once a year.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Well, man, thank you for taking the time. We've kind of run in the same circles a little bit, talked to you in person a few times. This is actually the longest conversation I've had with you. So I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us. And, I'm sure we'll continue to talk because we are running around in the same circles. So, good hearing your story. Some pretty good nuggets there. I know that I'm going to take away from personally, and actually expect a follow-up call on some of the property management stuff we talked about.
Absolutely.
All day. Call me anytime.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. Again, Lee Fjord, thank you. And on behalf of Darren Light, I'll close it out, man. We appreciate you joining us here. Oh, wait, Lee, how do we get a hold of you? If somebody wants to reach out, we'll drop it in the show notes as well, of course. But verbally.
Yeah, so it hasn't burned me yet. So my phone number is 850-797-1307. That's my cell phone. Text, call, anytime. I'm happy to have discussions with anyone about real estate, whether they're, just getting started or they have 10,000 doors. I'm an open book, and I'm happy to and would love to talk to any one of your audience members. And then my email address is Lee.Fjord@gmail. So LEE.FJORD@gmail.com. Shoot me an email anytime. And I'd love to hear from your audience members, and happy to help anyone. I'm a giver. So yeah, anytime. Call me, email, text, whatever.
Right on. Thanks. Yeah. And if you're listening and you came across something that you think somebody in your network or your partner may get a good takeaway from, please go ahead and share it with them. We appreciate you helping us grow our very modest reach to even less modest numbers. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye,
Later.
guys.